Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. I hope you're having a phenomenal day. We're taking a quick look here at the current market, which is pretty much just explained in a one emoji, right? That's pretty much the best way to describe it right now. But anyways, all joking aside here, the reason why this happened is unknown to a lot of folks, including myself. But the most part here, we can see every single last ounce of liquidation is fully swept here. Literally, everything's gone. There's no more longs to wipe out. So what are the market makers doing? Pushing the price action back higher. So this is a very standard stuff, unfortunately. I hate to normalize it, but it's very common. So just, buckle up and get ready for just a crazy, crazy continued market here moving forward. So at this point, what we're going to do is we're just going to identify some specific levels here. Obviously, some liquidation levels that may or may not be beneficial, but addressing some larger overall scenarios here where Bitcoin dominance is actually pulling back. It's kind of good, but stablecoin dominance is just ripping higher. We're now at 11% for the total market cap there for stablecoin. So that is an unknown area here, folks. That we're kind of in a weird place. So we're going to talk about that and much more. Be sure to stick around. Let's take a look. All right, folks, before we get started, just want to quickly ask you to hit the like button, comment below if you get a chance. Really appreciate that. Thanks again for doing your part there. We almost hit 2,000 views yesterday. That's actually quite awesome in the current market and just how terrible things are right now. If I were to have an emoji to describe how I feel about the market, it's the eye roll emoji where your eyes are just kind of like stuck looking up like, is this for real? I mean, waking up to just nonstop liquidation and just a kind of an upside down market it's really crazy. So stop trying to buy the dip or stop trying to find the bottom rather. Obviously, continue to average in as the price goes down in your spot bags, but leverage, I think it's best to kind of wait at least 24 hours before you do that at this point, just based on the simple fact that anytime you have a significant correction like this, you got to give it a chance to find its range, right? We're kind of going to be looking at that today. Anyways, nothing super outrageous here on the order blocks. Things are pretty standard here. We're seeing pretty significant orders coming through. Each one of these on the left-hand side is basically 100,000 or higher positions. So we're seeing some pretty big buy and sell orders, of course. So none of that really matters too much right now because the price of Bitcoin is just kind of fluctuating based on the simple fact that we had a significant correction. Bitcoin dominance has pulled back, so is ETH dominance, and of course, altcoin dominance too. So everything is just ripping down, and money is just flowing straight into a stablecoin dominance. And what this basically just tells us is that that the market is unsure. Stablecoin dominance is kind of a sign of dry powder in the market, but it's also a sign that nobody wants to buy, or at least we're seeing very little interest in buying, which is odd considering the range right now. Like 3 weeks ago, people were like salivating at the mouth for $100,000 entry, and now it's like, I don't even want to consider buying Bitcoin until we see 60 or 70,000. That's what people are saying, right? So it's an interesting dynamic. Either way, the last 24 hours, we can see liquidation piling up on both sides as per usual. That's once more, again, part of the problem that we're in here. These liquidation hunts are just super aggressive because too many people are using too high leverage, all right? So please don't be another statistic. Like we used low leverage. We got stopped out on a Bitcoin long, but we took profit on our Solana long as well. So it's kind of an interesting market right now. We're pretty much breaking even in a lot of trades. Just based on the simple fact that we see these aggressive candle wicks, right? So just once again, I mentioned that because low leverage is very important in these situations to ensure you don't get stopped out. While it does still happen, it's going to happen less likely, right? Less consistent. But either way, we got stopped out because we had a tighter stop loss there. I wanted to make sure that we didn't lose our shirts, so to speak. And that's an important thing when you're taking trades to the upside right now. So tight margins if you can. Anyways, when we look at liquidation here, there's not a whole heck of a lot that I'm seeing that's super amazing, except for the fact the common narrative here is that there's way more liquidation above the price than below, right? The more local one, as mentioned previously, was roughly 86,000. That's that was supposed to be the local bottom. And then of course, 88.5 is that significant chunk above the price. That's right where our resistances are at. So just to quickly highlight here, removing this just to give you some perspective, we can see 86.3 is that previous bottom, the local high. And then prior to that, we addressed this yesterday, 88.5 is that previous high that hasn't been officially retested yet. We came really close to our take profit target, of course, and the price turned right around. So once more, I want to emphasize the importance of adjusting your stop loss into profit as you continue to progress in profit, because you don't know. Like, I mean, we literally could have had a nice, solid percent of profit there. Obviously, I wasn't able to monitor it all day long, but the price action continued to precipitate lower, and generally speaking, it ended up resulting in a larger loss, right? And that's just kind of the way the market is. So once more, just emphasizing that importance of adjusting your stop loss higher, all right? So all that being said, let's quickly look here at the overall scenario. Just to clarify, there's a lot of liquidation here below the price and above the price based on the large margin. This is high margin numbers here, right? So obviously we're starting to see some significant longs here entering the market. Now, when you look at this here, of course, this doesn't identify any local liquidation quite as well because this is a macro structure. This is the last 30 days liquidation. So if you do look at the last 30 days, everything's been hit there to the downside, basically implying that anybody who took a long in the last 30 days is now fully liquidated. They could have closed their positions too, but in general, it's safe to presume that they're probably closed out because it was a forced liquidation. All that being said, 92,000, 90,000, those are kind of some upper areas, or 88K. Roughly every 2,000 above the price, we're seeing these kind of these consistent areas of interest, right? So we can presume 86, 88, and 90,000 are those three areas of resistance above us. And when we look here at liquidation delta, we can see we're pretty heavy to the downside now. And let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit further here. Even though we've already kind of looked at it, I want to kind of see what the last 3 days looks like, and just kind of quickly understand where we're at in liquidation. There's a little bit left there at 80,000, but a pretty significant chunk, about 86.3. That's just above or right there at that local high. All right. Oftentimes you'll see a accumulation of a liquidation at resistance ranges, which are previous supports. All that said, let's take a quick look at the 4-hour time frame and just identify here as well that we got a little bit of a reset, and we're now down to a 7 on TD sequential. So simple way to understand it here is we've been moving the same direction for what, somewhere in the range of like 24 to 30 hours, right in that range. And that tells us that we're getting close to being an overextended state, and we should start to bottom out soon. Now, I know I said the same thing yesterday and probably the day before that, and that's just how it's supposed to work. You're supposed to see capitulation when the price hits that local bottom and bounce, which we did see tentatively yesterday. We almost hit that 88.5 mark again, but once more, this consistent sell-off is just something that you cannot try to fight. You can't try to battle it, and trying to find the perfect entry is just impossible right now. So don't get down on yourself. That's a simple way to walk away from this conversation here, is that these are just ridiculous situations. There's not much really you can say about it except for just kind of brushing it off and making sure that you take a little bit of time to let the market kind of stabilize. Honestly, it's been difficult to see that based on just how crazy manipulated the market is, because this is not standard trading, folks. This is not what normal trading is supposed to look like. This is just nonsense. It's trying to shake everybody out. Fear is at an extreme high, and it's just extremely terrible right now. So that is what it is, right? That's the concept. Either way, we don't really need to identify anything here on the daily. We've already talked about that previously. In the 4-hour once more, we've already talked about the overextension. 15-minute time frame just kind of shows us here that we are currently at a slightly overextended state on this short-term reversal here. So there's a good chance that we should start to consolidate and go a little bit higher. I'm guessing 86 to 88K is still on the docket, just based on the simple fact that this is such an aggressive sell-off that there is some pretty significant amount of profit being taken, that the price is more likely to go higher. So those are just kind of my thoughts there. But from a technical standpoint, there's like nothing here that's like super amazing. You shouldn't be like jumping right into a long. I would maybe hesitate 24, 48 hours here, see how the weekend starts, and maybe go from there. There will probably be some good opportunities for altcoins at that point. Between now and then, though, everything's just like really overexhausted, and it's hard to want to consider trading anything. Okay, so those are my thoughts there. I could be way off, but I think the best strategy right now is to wait. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at some altcoins next. All right, folks, let's go ahead and get started off with Ethereum. And before we do, I just want to kind of preface with all the altcoins we're going to look at today. We're mainly just going to do a side-by-side comparison to kind of see what's going on, if there's any specific outliers here, and if there's any good opportunities. But I do want to preface and just kind of reiterate, there really aren't any good opportunities right now, just because you should wait at least 24 to 48 hours when you have significant liquidation events like we just saw. The best strategy is to kind of wait on the sidelines, let the range become established first, right? That's kind of the premise there. Taking a look at open interest, this doesn't tell us a whole heck of a lot here. There's just a ton of open interest above the price. We know that already, right? Every $100, 28, 2,900, 3,000, those are all levels of resistance for Ethereum, okay? Furthermore, we can see 16 billion rather in liquidation delta. That's quite high, which is overextended in my personal opinion. Should see some relief there soon. But once more, we test that lower range of support. 2,600 is that range of support for Ethereum. So it does make sense for the price to normalize here, maybe go up a little bit, but it's still too early to tell. All that being said, 2,570, so 2,570 is a significant area of liquidation on the downside in last 7 days worth of trading. So we're seeing a lot of accumulation of liquidation below the price in the 25 to 2,600 range. That's where I have a pretty significant buy order for Ethereum, just based on that being kind of a macro support range. So I'm expecting 2,500 to be still on the docket here, but once more, it really just depends on Bitcoin. Everything depends on Bitcoin right now. Like, it's so stupid. I really don't like trading scenarios like that. As we can see here, though, just a side-by-side comparison, because that's mainly what we're going to be focusing on. We can see we're running one-to-one with Bitcoin. So there's nothing here super amazing. If Bitcoin goes up, Ethereum will probably go up too. If Bitcoin pulls back, Ethereum's gonna drop really hard as per usual, which is what we're seeing here now, right? So nothing amazing here. There's no hidden divergences or amazing scenarios, right? If you're looking for a new exchange or possibly just want to help support the channel, Bitunix has got you covered. We've been partnered with this exchange for over 2 years. It's been our fan favorite for our community, and the reason why is because they take really good care of you. They offer trading reward bonuses as well as a reduction in fees. Best exchange I would recommend at this point. Link down below for more information. So let's take a look at Solana next and quickly identify the same scenario here. Just quickly to touch here on the macro structure, our previous low back from, June of earlier this year, we had roughly $133 was at bottom, okay? We're now below that, but we were holding right at that level yesterday. So we can reclaim 132. I think that Solana still has a good chance at recovering. This is one of the few coins that's actually done well. We did secure profits on this long here for Solana before we took that loss for Bitcoin, right? So kind of break even, but simple way to understand it here is that Solana is in a situation right now where we're seeing that open interest, the previous low, potentially working as a new high. So 130 to 132 may very well be that next bottom, or essentially our next top, rather, the local high. All that said, we can see here with high block capital, we can see liquidation delta is roughly at about 2.5 billion. That's quite a lot. And all liquidation to the downside is fully swept here. Big surprise. That chunk here, that's like about a $5 billion chunk at 127 to 128. So while the price wicked down to 120, that's a pretty significant correction. That lower area liquidation has been swept. This is likely a power of 3 manipulative wave where we can see consolidation in a good range, a sweep to the downside to trap late shorts, and then the price could and very well should recover here soon. I'll show more so what I mean by that. Let me just kind of quickly clarify. It's not a guarantee, of course, but oftentimes you'll see the price action for coins work themselves into these channels. Let's just go ahead and do this here, for example, and then it'll manipulate you to think that you were going to go lower, right? So you start taking shorts here, and then what happens? The price will start to recover instantly, and it'll come back here to establish a higher high to sweep these previous areas of liquidation, which we have on the charts here, by the way. There is liquidation between 145 and 147. So that leads me to believe that we're more likely to see the price action for Solana continue to progress higher here, under the impression, again, Bitcoin doesn't continue to precipitate lower, right? Bitcoin can literally just hang out at 84,000. I think we'll see something like this here soon. So I would just urge caution to if you're considering taking a late short here right now, shorting what feels like the bottom. That's why you haven't seen many shorts from me in our community, just based on the simple fact that every time we test a bottom, you got to give it a chance to hold. They don't hold, it keeps going lower, right? And you don't want to try to catch a falling knife. So it's an interesting thing. This market kind of is hand tying a lot of people with this psychological fear of the price always going lower, but also the fact that it could very well bounce at any given time. We don't know where the bottom is. Okay. Anyways, Solana is not performing super well. It's basically 1-to-1 in the last 24 hours. So I'm not saying that Solana is going to instantly recover, but it's one of the few coins that has the propensity to do so. So just be mindful. Solana could very well be a runner here soon, but I wouldn't bank on it. All right. So taking a look here at SUI. Same scenario here. This chart looks pretty ugly. Nothing really to note in that regard. The backend data might tell us something different here, but we're seeing a pretty similar type of behavior here, right? So not a whole heck of a lot going on there. Take a look here at SUI on the right-hand side. We can see 1.5. We talked about that yesterday. That was supposed to be the support. We saw consolidation there. We can presume 1.5 will be the next high. In other words, if you're going to take a long, secure profits between now and then, because that'll likely be that descending trend line retest or that previous bottom working as a new top. So that's kind of the concept there. Once more, you got to work within tight margins in this current market. Having said that, look at this, 130 to 120. We see a significant amount of liquidation left, but majority of the liquidation here has been hit, right? big old chunk between now and 130. So I did talk yesterday about 130 being a decent consideration for a buy order, at least regarding a spot bag. From a leverage perspective right now, I still think it's worth waiting. So SUI does not have my vote on taking it long with confidence. XRP looks almost the exact same. So as you can see, there's a common theme here, folks. Every single altcoin is looking the same as Bitcoin, right? They're just kind of they're kneeling to the almighty God of Bitcoin, right? And not much you can do about it. It's just kind of the way the market is right now, just constant sell-off. So all that being said, we can see here roughly 182 is the local bottom. That doesn't tell us too much because once more, $2 is that previous psychological support level. That should work as a new resistance once more because it's a macro structure. So on the macro, we're seeing $2 as that consistent support, but now it's that consistent resistance for us. Okay. Once more, it's best to presume that rather. Not saying that it is, it hasn't even been retested yet, but if it were to, just know psychological support and resistance levels are commonly rejected initially. So if we do see a retest of $2, that would be a decent consideration for a short, just kind of shooting from the hip. But once more, you don't want to shorten the blind. All that said, not a whole heck of a lot here except for the $2 range being the local area of open interest. Liquidation standpoint, there's no liquidation left. Big surprise, all liquidation is gone, right? So it's interesting to see the price continue to precipitate lower when there's little to no profit to be taken to the downside. It just tells me there's something greater going on here, and it's a really weird market. So this is way different than ever before. And I don't understand it. I don't think a lot of people do. If they claim they do, they're just kind of telling you and trying to be confident that they think they got it figured out. But this is just a rat race right now, folks. It is nothing but a terrible, terrible situation. So again, I'm trying to be positive, of course, because I know people really appreciate my positivity. But the truth is there's no way to sugarcoat it right now that the market is terrible. You're probably better off waiting a good 24 to 48 hours before trading. And that's just kind of the standard way that you want to consider moving forward with the way the market is. So those are my thoughts. What are yours? Comment below. Once more, take a walk. Consider, doing something that makes you happy. Don't get stuck on the charts all day, especially after this nonsense. Let it kind of calm down and let you calm down too. I think that's the most important thing. So all that being said, hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you again tomorrow. Be safe out there, folks. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.